In this lesson, we're going to look at how to input strings. And we use the cin object with strings also, but sometimes just using the cin object alone is not going to work on its own. So let's take a look at how everything works. First thing I want to do is create a variable. We're going to call it first. So this looks very familiar, except this time we're working with strings instead of numbers from the last lesson. So we're going to ask the user to enter their first name. We're going to get their first name from the keyboard, and then we're going to say hello and the first name. So here we put in Rebecca, and we see hello Rebecca. Now let's modify this program just a little bit, and let's do hello name. And now let's watch what happens. Let's change our variable here and here. And let's enter a full name this time. So let's enter Bobby Brown. And look what it does. It says hello Bobby. Well, here's what happened. You may already be able to figure it out. Cin name only allows one string to be entered. When we entered Bobby Brown, let me do it again, we put a space. And remember what a space does. A space is a delimiter, which can mean that that's the end of the input for that particular object. So, how do we solve the problem? One way to solve the problem would be to create two variables. And then we can string together two variables with input with input operators. We'll go ahead and get the last name in here also. And then right here, we're going to write fname input operator lname. Let's take a look at the program like that. Then when we run it, we can say Bobby Brown, and what we get back is Bobby Brown in two variables. Now let's go back and let's say we wanted to store the whole name in one variable. Now in that case, we have to do something completely different. We have to use a special built-in function called getLine. GetLine takes two arguments, or two pieces of data. An input object, or an object to get data from, in this case cin, and then the variable or the object to store the data in this case it's the variable name. So now when we run it, watch what happens. Oops, that's right. Always a problem. You got to remember to change your variables around. There we go. Let's run it again now. There we go. And when we type Bobby Brown, all of Bobby Brown is stored in the variable name. GetLine will take input up to the enter key. So watch this. I'm going to change my variable to sentence. We're going to change the input object to sentence. Then let's change our variable here, and now we can type something like the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. It allows us to enter input. I didn't change the prompt, but I'm not going to go back now. And there's our output. It accepted everything up into the enter key. So to summarize, the best way to work with strings, especially if it's multiple word strings in C++, is to use the getLine function with cin and then a variable as the two arguments to that function.